Hi there, I'm Becca Feeken with Amazing Paper Grace. I'm a licensed designer with Spellbinders, and I'm so excited. Today, I'm going to be showing you how to make a frame using my brand new collection. It's called Shadowbox Vignettes. So we have a little shadow box. The neat thing about the shadow box is you can make them any size. So let me show you what they look like. This is one of the Shadowbox dies. I know when you're looking at that, might not quite know what it means, but for every shadow box that has 4 legs, we're going to cut 2 with these 2 dies, bookending them, and 2 with these 2 dies, bookending them. It's a very easy process to put them together. So let me show you how they cut. I have my dies here, and I've gone ahead and put washi tape on them. We're going to use the 3/4 inch dies to make a 3/4 inch frame. Now, when you're using the 3/4 inch die, every strip, no matter what size you're going to do, is a 3-inch strip. So I've done 4 3-inch strips. It doesn't matter how long they are, they just have to be 3 inches. So I just come down here to my work area. This die is kind of special. It's an edge die. And so if you see where these 2 little bump outs are, the bump outs get aligned with the edge of your paper. If you were to turn it over, you would see that it just fits inside a couple of cut lines. So I'm going to do that on the other side as well. Whenever you're using a die, you use the matching die and you simply bookend them. So this is the other. I'm just going to make sure that it goes to the edge. And then I go to my cutting machine with this. So basically this is going to cut just the edge of the paper. I'll flip it over and show you. This is what we come up with. It just is going to tag those corners. And if I pull it off, this is what I have. And so what it has done is it's made the appropriate edge for the paper, and it's also given me a couple of score lines. Let me go ahead and cut the other different piece. So this and this I've lined up. I know I'm correct. And I will do it on the other side with the same die, but it's the bookend, the left and right of it. This is different from the other piece that we did. And this is, again, just done the very edge of the die so that we have a little bit of a different treatment. And you will very shortly see how that's going to work. If I pull that off, you have a piece that has some score markings, and it also has a tab. And I'm going to show you how it all works together. These are the 2 pieces. And actually, we need 4 altogether, so there are 2 of each. There also is a small tab in the set. And so when you're building a frame, you're going to need 4 of those. So our next step is we need to score. And I have a scoreboard here. You're going to reference the score marks that are already on the ends of the paper. And you're going to connect the scoring lines. You want to be sure that you don't go over an original score line because it will break the paper. So that's all we're going to do between the score lines and not over the score lines that are already there. There are 4 score lines on each piece, so you need to do all 4. You're going to do the same for this piece. If you look at it real closely, you can see the score lines. And so I'm simply going to come in between and connect. Then I'll go over here and connect that one, and that one. And you do that to all 4 pieces. Once you have that done, you simply take each piece and you're going to flex on the score lines. I do that by holding the piece down against my mat and then pushing over and allowing that score line to break the paper. So it becomes a very quick process, just like so. That's one piece that's scored. Then I'll show you the other piece. So I just simply lay it against the mat and let force do its work, pushing back on the paper and at the same time smoothing it out. Okay, so that's one of each. I have 2 more to do, and then we'll be moving on to the next step. Now that I have all of the pieces scored, what I'm going to do is I'm going to line them up side by side, alternating by the 2 different pieces. And we're going to butt them up next to each other. So with the right side down, I'm going to have a plain piece, and then I'm going to have the piece with the tab. Now, if you look at these pieces carefully, there's a fat side. In other words, this part right here is quite a bit much thicker than this right here. The fat edge goes on the bottom. And here again, this is a thin edge. This is a fatter edge. That fat edge goes toward the bottom. So what I'm going to do is take score tape, and I can either put the tape on the back of the tab, or I can put the tape over this crack and then put the tab down. This is actually my preferred method. So you would simply put a piece of tape down, lift off the liner, and then one of the tabs that I showed you earlier, which has a score mark, I'm going to score in the middle, and then I'm going to lay it down right along the crack. This is where you want to be. So that score mark is right there. So I'm actually going to do that for every crack in between the pieces that I had. So I'm going to move this down, and I'm going to put the next piece that's alternating, the thin side at the top, the fat side at the bottom. I'm going to butt them together just like that, and then I'll put a piece of tape. And this needs to be a very aggressive tape. You want it to hold, and it will make sense shortly why we're doing this. It makes it very easy to construct this. So now here again, I'm ready for a tab, and I've folded it in half. I'm just going to lay it right in there along the crack. So 2 down and 2 to go. It's that easy. And so if you've noticed, I said that we're going to need 4 tabs. And you might wonder, where's that last tab going to go? I'm going to show you. We'll put that there. So I'm going to actually scoot this down just a little bit more because we have 1 more tab. So here I am right on the edge. I'm going to take a piece of tape as if to do a whole tab. And I'll put that down. And what you're going to do with this, let me get this tape off of the edge. You're actually going to let it hang off by half. So that's what you're going to end up with. Okay, so now we actually have a pretty big snake here, and we've done this on the wrong side. I'm going to flip this over. And now what we're going to do, this is our right side, I'm going to come and put a line of tape all the way across the bottom closest to the edge. All right, now that I have all of the liners pulled off, I'm going to flip this model over. Okay, so if you look closely here, I'm going to fold this around, and I'm going to press the edge, and this is my edge with adhesive. I'm going to press it right onto that crease or right over that crease. It's going to kind of give me a guide, and then just reach up and allow the adhesive to catch somewhere. You don't have to catch it everywhere, but just catch it somewhere. And then you can actually roll over. This is going to stay. You can't crush it. So just roll along the edge and put your fingers in there and smooth that down. And we have one segment done. I'm going to do this for all 4 segments. So I'm going to come to the crease line. I'm going to let the adhesive grab on, and then I can actually reach in there with my finger and kind of press it down. So I will move to the second one. It'll feel a little bit like an octopus to start with, but then it will feel very natural. Since this isn't going to let you crush it, as long as you're coming up to this score line, you're going to be just fine. So I just let it touch in a little place, and then I come in with my finger and I smooth it down. This is a pretty hefty cardstock that I have. You can make this out of delicate cardstock because you can actually come into the center and make it, do what you want to do. All right, so here's the last side. I'm going to let the adhesive take hold. Then I'm going to come inside and just make sure it's adhered. All right, so now we have this long snake, but there's this piece that has these odd edges. We're going to tuck them in, and you tuck them in at 90 degrees. So it gets tucked in there and tucked in there. And what that does is it makes it so that once your frame is together, it's difficult to crush it, because that's going to actually give you some stability in there and keep it from closing in. Okay, so we are coming to the end of putting this together almost. It's that easy. I'm going to grab some glue and get it ready. And I have my glue right here on the end. And this is the end that had that little tab that's hanging off. I'm going to come into this triangle here. And I'm going to put glue on this side and on the other side like this. And then I'm going to flip it over. And I'm going to actually do it from the other side as well. Glue. And then I'm actually going to put glue here. Okay. So now everything is in place. I'm going to fold this model up so that it constructs by keeping that slanted edge on the outside always, and I set that up, and then I set this up, and then I keep around, always keeping the slanted edge on the outside, and then it closes. So I'm going to put this tab in while I'm cinching that in. Okay? So here we go. This is the frame. I've basically rolled it around in a circle and closed it at the end to close the circle, and it's pretty square. So we're not quite done yet. I typically like to have a back, so if you have a back, this is what I recommend you do next. You're going to flip it around, and you're again going to take your score tape. You're going to put score tape on each edge. Okay, here we go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually pull off this liner, but I'm only going to pull off a little bit. So I'm just going to kick up an edge, and then I'm going to dog ear it out, just like that. And it'll stay. And then I'm going to rotate the frame, and I'm going to do that on each piece, and you only need to do it once on each piece. So there, dog-eared out. And this is actually going to hold your back on it. It's going to hold it on pretty securely. And one more side to go. Just dog-ear this out. Okay, so this frame I cut 8 inches. Remember, we had a 3-inch strip, and I cut all of my strips to 8 inches. So I have an 8-inch by 8-inch piece of cardstock. I'm going to go ahead and figure out a placement for it where it's not hanging over the edge. And because we're not letting it touch all the adhesive at once, if I don't have it right, it's forgiving enough that I can pick it up and move it around a bit. So I think this looks pretty good to me. I'm pressing down, and then I'm going to pull out each of those pieces. I'll go back in and I'll get the rest of that one. But the rest will come out like this. Just pull it just like you're pulling a pull tab. And pull. Now, one of my pieces went inside. I can dig in there and just get that, and it would go just like this. So if your dog ear disappears, no worries. Just pull that on out, and there we go. So this is the finished frame. I'd love to show you some of the things that we've made with Shadowbox vignettes. They're just so easy, and they're absolutely charming. Have a look. So this is something that's going to be at home on anyone's refrigerator. How darling is that? This is somebody's granddaughter, and there are sentiments in there, and it's held up by a bow. This is a 1/2 inch with some flowers. You can put a sentiment in there, or you can put more flowers. But look at this. If I switch it around for you, look at that. That's an easel, which is also available in the collection. It doubles as a pocket. It just makes the perfect embellishment, and then it also keeps your frame standing up. That's how easy it is to make a frame, and a frame can be made any size. It can be 5 by 7, it can be 4 by 4. You get to choose what each leg of the frame is going to be, and it's that easy. This is a basic way that you put it together. There are many others. You'll get very used to putting them together, and you'll figure out your shortcuts. But from A to Z, from any, one frame to another, it's that easy to do with Shadowbox vignettes.